All right, I'm Courtney Daniel. I'm a kindergarten teacher down in Central Point, a couple hours from here, and this is my portfolio. So I graduated from Western 2 years ago with my bachelor's. I started teaching in the fall and then also started this program. The school that I work at in my district is really big on technology, so I thought that this program would be a great way to kind of continue my learning and building my skills to make sure that I could bring in some new resources to the school. I learned a ton of new tools, which was exciting. This is a little picture. If you look at the phonetic spelling, it does say Miss Daniel, best teacher. For my kinders, we had an alphabet party and they made that sweet little sign for me. And then one of my favorite quotes by Gandhi is just be the change you wish to see in the world, because I think that speaks pretty loudly to teachers. I have my about me up here and my little dog and a little bit about my background, and then actually how I never thought I would ever be a kindergarten teacher. I always thought it was too young, and then once I found it, I fell in love with it, and I'm super happy with my placement. My standards are all linked to the ISTE ones, and each one has a bunch of different artifacts. I won't go through each page, all the sub-standards. I have lots of different, most of them have visuals and audio because it's kindergarten. So I tried to make the content fit my young learners. I've got all 3 of my literature essays in here from the program, and then this is where I'd like to focus in on my best work. So we have a lot of guidelines in kindergarten sometimes because a lot of kids have never been in school before or very limited preschool experiences. So this was an infographic that I made, and I kind of struggled on it. I didn't want to put too much writing, but I also needed to remember all the rules myself. So, and make sure that I was being consistent for the kids. So I tried to line up, the wording to the picture. So, like keeping your hands and feet to yourself, staying on your bottom, trying to line them up right. And what I loved about this was I could just pull it up either on my Apple TV or on my active board, and the kids knew, like when they were coming to carpet, what their expectation was. And also, I could share the link on Class Dojo, which is something I use to communicate with parents all the time. And the kids really love it. They love the visual. It's consistent. They see it all year, and so they always know, and by now they have it down, so it's a great way to kind of start the year off for me. And then this is an instructional guide that I worked on last spring, and this is just kind of the debrief and the lesson plan, and it's for my kids when they were working on number writing. And I actually really struggled at the beginning of this, looking at examples that were mostly like written work, and I'm like, well, I can't send out, a whole written instruction to my kinders. They would scribble all over it or something. And so I decided that one of our assessments that we do all the time that they do on their own is that I give them number cards 0 to 20, and they have to put them in order. And so it's something that I definitely model to them, and giving them an instructional guide with 6 steps, I'll show you the back side of the page in a second, is definitely something that needs to be thoroughly modeled. But I love using this. It definitely creates more independence on my kids, and they're very dependent at that age. I mean, they always want the teacher there, and with 30 kids, it's not always manageable. So this really opened my eyes to a kid-friendly way on making them work more independently, which just has saved my life a few times. So basically they see okay, they know where the stack of cards is, which is always in the same spot. They know to put them in order, and then they're going to take a picture on Seesaw, and then they upload it to their profile. It's a super easy online portfolio for anybody that works with younger grades. And then they know to mix the cards back up for the next kid coming in. And then after that, the next task would be to go to their seat, write their numbers on the little page, and then these are 3 choices that I typically have out for math centers: Unifix, cubes, geoboards, and pattern shapes. But sometimes those change, so it's really an easy document to just go into and just change the choices on what I want. And it's a great way to even introduce the instructional guide by just giving them a paper with different math choices, so they can just take that and be like, okay, when I'm done, I can choose one of these without me repeating it 100 times, which happens all the time. Another one I have here. This is a website I made. I used it last spring with my kids when we were working on number bonds. Number bonds, I found out, was a definitely newer concept that a lot of my parents were unaware of. And I shared it on my Class Dojo, and it was kind of disappointing because I didn't have very involved parents last year, so they I didn't get much feedback on it, so I'm hoping to continue to use it and have some more responsive parents. But so when I was working on this, the big thing again is keeping visuals, because I want the kids to be able to use it, and then I want parents to also be able to use it and kind of learn and see what we're doing in the classroom. So for the kids, if they forget the directions, they can use the visuals to find the day of the week, watch the video if there's a demonstration, do the practice problems, and then turn it in. And the kids caught on to that pretty well. And then they know their days of the week pretty well by looking at that first letter. So just to show you an example, this would be Monday. So this kind of reminds the kids like the 4 different ways you can see a number bond. I have a little demonstration video to remind them. And then I used SoundCloud, which is a great tool to do some audio problems. And so the first one is a little bit longer because I give some directions, but I can share this second one where they would be able to listen to this with headphones while they're filling out their number bond. So, let's see.
All right, students, we have already done our first problem. Now we will move on to number 2. Use the second number bond template right below the first problem. This time, I want you to do the problem with 3 squares and 1 triangle. Fill out the parts. You have your squares and triangles, and then bring them down to the hole to see how many you end up with. Again, you have 3 squares and 1 triangle. How many do you have altogether?
Okay, so that worked really well because the kids could just replay it if they needed it. And then for some of my kids that like got it the first time, and some of them didn't have to listen to me repeat it even on the audio as much, they could just cruise through. So I found it great to work with all my different levels of learners so they could take their time. It was a little challenging to find enough devices. So I usually had to do it like a math workshop, which is what it was designed for, but that's kind of been my biggest issue for now. We have a lot of technology resources at my school, but typically it goes to more like 3 through 5th, and we're trying to get more into kinder. So then with that, I wanted to share it with parents, as I said, and I wanted to be able to teach them a little bit about, hey, this is a number bond, this is what it means to decompose a number and compose numbers, because when we're teaching kids that kind of vocabulary and the parents have no idea how we're teaching addition and subtraction, sometimes they get frustrated. And then I created another infographic, because these are the 2 major ways that we look at it. So just to kind of break it down for parents if they just wanted a little more information on that. And my next one was a classroom Bing link. This was one of the resources I really enjoyed. It was a tool that I found super easy. I haven't shared it a ton with families. It's more of something I share at the beginning of the year, and that way they can look at it. And each little dot that I put around the classroom has different things, so like my contact information. And since I put that on there, usually I wait, this year I waited until I knew who was going to be in my class, so that way it was relevant. But I also, there's things about the district and the school, so here's a link to Central Point Elementary, so that way like everything's in one spot for them. There's a district link, and then I also have things like name writing paper and books that they can read with their kids. So I tried to make it friendly and kind of invite them into my classroom so they can kind of see where their kid would be. Sometimes it's great for the kids to kind of see the room and get a little more comfortable with it through a picture. And then just to share just some brief information that's going to help their kid be more successful in the classroom, like right away in September. And then my last one, this was from my practicum. So these are just the lesson plans that I typed up. And basically, this was great for me in the fall to complete because it really kind of threw me into needing to find a way to take some great technology tools that I've been learning and implement them. And so what I did was I used Seesaw, again, which is a great online portfolio. Each of my kids have it. They actually love it and catch on to it so fast. It was kind of mind-blowing to me. And so we would like take pictures. They'd walk around the classroom and look for maybe a square. And then they would get to trace it. And then they were even typing the shape names and we were sounding them out. And they were just, I was amazed that like, they're like, oh, it's this, Miss Daniel. And they were showing me things on it. So it's been a really great tool to use. The kids enjoyed it. And then on Seesaw, everything goes to their portal, which is shared with their parents. So then parents were able to see what their kid was doing in class. They could comment, they could like things, and they can only see their kids' stuff for privacy. But it was really great. That actually had a great turnout. Parents loved that. And then it was great for me to see what kinds of things the parents were really connecting with and getting excited to see that their kids typing and drawing and finding shapes and, you know, really enjoying their learning. So those are my 5 best works. I've learned, like I said, a whole bunch of new tools. I think the most challenging thing for me was probably trying to adapt certain things that have more written content down to a way that my learners could do it. So sometimes I found myself trying to find things that would work for parents if there was more writing involved, and then also trying to fit into my kinders as well. But I mean, I really enjoyed it. I have a lot of takeaways. I'm super excited to take some of this stuff with me into next year, because some of the things in my artifacts I actually didn't get to use yet, because it was something that, like, after a unit I would think of this great project once I learned a new tool, and then I'd be like, oh my goodness, this would be perfect, but I'll use it next year. So I have this like whole list already going. So, but that's my portfolio, and I just learned a lot of